You're listening to the T21 Podcast, brought to you by Down Syndrome Group of the Ozarks. Our mission is to bring life and wellness to families who are advocating towards a community of inclusion for individuals with Down syndrome. Hi everyone, welcome back to the T21 Podcast, and this is Ep.4. Part of this podcast, something that was really important to me, was that we do parent stories and really just get to know the parents of our friends with Down syndrome and all about your guys' experience as well as your child's. And today we have Gerald and Becky Mathis with us. So welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Do you want to talk about first Nathan, your son, who he is, everything about him, and then I want to hear more of a background of just your life with him.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh.
That was a huge question.
Nathan is 33. He loves country music. He loves people's birthdays. He loves his own birthday especially, but he really loves celebrating other people's birthdays. He can remember your birthday, remember your age. He's very quick to point out how old you are, how old you're going to be. He loves volunteering at the Dream Center. He gets to go up there 2 days a week. He loves that. He gets to work at the T21 chromosome coffee truck. Mm-hmm. Absolutely loves that. He's an uncle, the world's greatest uncle. Just ask him, he'll tell you. For his 30th birthday, he wanted, that's the year that our first grandson was born. And he said, I want a plaque that says world's greatest uncle. And I was like, Kaylee, he's not joking. That's his sister. I was like, that's what he wants for his birthday. I'm serious. And so, I don't know. He's just...
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious, and he's kind.
Mm-hmm. He is so kind.
He likes a routine.
Mm-hmm. Last time he comes and works in the Upside Down Mercantile, and he has a brand here. You guys know this, but and it's called Try Socky, and he sells socks. Oh, what just flew in here? And so he comes and works with me sometimes, and we always quiz him, like, who's singing this song? And he always knows the answer, and he's like, yeah, and this album was from this year. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
right now I'm pregnant, and he was like, so whenever it's 2035, your baby will be this age. I'm like, what in the world? I don't know if I can fact check that, but I believe you.
That's right.
You don't need to fact check it. It is right.
I know something that a lot of our parents are probably interested in is what the story of his diagnosis was, because he's in his 30s. So what was that like for you guys then?
We were totally shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were 22. We had no reason to expect that he would have Down syndrome or anything else, and so the very first thing they told us after he was born was the heart defect, which scared us. We were both, I think, like, well, how's he breathing? How is his heart beating? Because congenital heart defects are fairly common, mm-hmm. but you don't know that until you have a reason to know that. And so then they talked about the Down syndrome, and at that time you still had to wait. They did a test and they had to send it away, and it took like 9 days, and I was like, maybe not, maybe it's not. And they knew they were just waiting. And so it's different now. I feel like it's much faster now, but the hospital did a great job. They caught the heart defect, they caught things right off the bat, and we were fortunate that we were here, and just right before he was born, Dr. Shapiro moved from St. Louis to here and opened a practice, so that was such a blessing. I mean, like a month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, Dr. Shapiro was the first pediatric cardiologist in the Springfield area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had just moved, or was just getting ready to move from St. Louis to Springfield, bringing his practice here. So
that's really cool.
Really fortunate.
So yeah. Before that, every visit we would have had to have gone to St. Louis, and so they gave us the diagnosis, and at that point, or, and unfortunately, they said, the negative was they said he'll probably be in the hospital more than he's out of the hospital. And that wasn't true. I wish they'd have never said that to us, and they're better now.
Right.
We have more research for people who haven't been raised in an institution, more, so we just have a lot better research, and that we know now that there are more positives than negatives. But, so there's been a lot of growth in that aspect of it, and, at that time you went to therapy instead of therapy coming to your home. So we went to his therapy. He had an infant stimulation class, and we went to that with another little group. And we were pretty lucky. He was pretty healthy. He had a heart surgery at 10 months that he did really well in, and then our other 2 children being born after him was really a blessing, because then we just went through everything again. So it just gave him further
Reinforcement.
With
So
all those
Nathan's
skills.
the oldest then. Okay.
They gave him, we re-practiced all those skills because he was still at that level.
Right.
And of course, they never knew anything different. And
I never even thought of it like that. Wow. That's
but
really
yeah,
cool.
that was a really good thing. And he, of course, his verbal language was much delayed, as everybody sees, but it happens. I promise it happens for anybody who's got a little bitty one now, and they're like, I don't know if they're ever going to talk. Go ahead and teach the sign language. It doesn't stop the verbal language. And, I don't know.
And now he'll just talk your ear off.
Exactly. Be careful what you're praying for or wishing for.
Right.
But I think it was an interesting journey for us. Like Becky said, 22 years old. I remember our doctor telling us, look, your chances of getting struck by lightning were better than having a son with Down syndrome.
Wow.
And I think being first-time parents, we just we were just kind of dazed and confused a little bit at the beginning. Like Becky
overwhelmed.
said, yeah, it was overwhelming. Like Becky said, the hospital basically had to test for if he did have Down syndrome. So nobody was willing to tell us until they actually got the test results back, which that was the right thing to do. But I felt like they were trying to give us indicators, of, hey, they were kind of talking a little bit about the crease in his line. I remember that one of the nurses talking to me about the crease in his line and his ears being a little bit lower, and just some characteristics. And I was, I wasn't sure, about
You're
any
like,
of
this
that.
is my
Right.
baby.
Okay, yeah, I see, I see all that, but what does it really mean? So,
Right.
but I think when it was actually validated, I think it was just, I know for me personally, and probably for Becky as well, it was just challenging. We weren't expecting it, and here all of a sudden, you're excited about having a baby, and all of a sudden things aren't as you expected, and there's a lot of unknowns. 33 years ago, I feel like the medical team there did an excellent job. They tried to educate us, as best they could as we were leaving. But we were pointed to some therapy that I think was very beneficial, and it was a huge blessing to have Becky with the background that she had. She had just graduated with early education degree from Missouri State University, and so that really benefited Nathan. It benefited all of us, and then getting the reinforcement of 2 older kids, like Becky said, was really, really beneficial. And that was the decision to have kids was a little bit challenging. We wanted more children. We knew we wanted 2, 3, maybe 4 children. Well, when Nathan was born, all of a sudden, then there was a question of, hey, do we want to move forward with this, and what are our chances of having another child with Down syndrome? And your chances go up by, I think was it 50%?
No, it was a lot more than that, because then it was 1 out of 100. And it wasn't just Down syndrome, they said any.
Mm-hmm.
Which there are a lot of, I don't know, we have a child with Down syndrome, but oh my gosh, then you meet other people and you're like, oh my gosh, there are some very, very serious challenges.
Genetic, yeah, yeah.
And so I think we look back, I would have not, I still couldn't say, if somebody was like, would you choose this? I wouldn't choose it for Nathan, because it's heartbreaking to be like, no, you can't drive. No, you can't this. No, you can't that. So I don't know. I don't want any young parent that is maybe thinking, this isn't what I chose. I don't want them to be like, I'm the only one who thinks that, because I wouldn't have chosen it. But boy, I was like, we're lucky that it's Down syndrome and not something worse, something where they're
Just a
they
lot
can't
harder.
communicate, or they can't, they have to be on monitors, or so I was like, oh well, we can we can deal with this,
Right.
and we told Nathan lives a very full and busy and entertaining and happy, and he's got his passions and all that and stuff, but I don't know. I just always want to say that, because I felt like when Nathan was a baby that anybody else I knew who had a child that I met like through therapies, that they were like, oh, it's great, this is what I wanted. And I was like, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
Dude, this isn't what I really wanted. And that's not true.
Right.
It's just,
I
we
think-
didn't know each other well enough to say,
Right.
oh, I'm kind of scared about the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you were young. You were 22. Everyone has this ideal in their head of what is to come, of being first-time parents or second-time parents or whatever, right? You almost like look into the future and plan like what life is going to look like, even up until they're adults, right? And so then anybody that's thrown with a curveball by getting a diagnosis of anything, right? Anything, and just understanding the hurdles, there's a mourning process that happens with that, because you're mourning the idea that you created in your head, right? And so it's not until later, after you've gotten that baby and you've taken that baby home and you've loved that baby and that baby has given you that unconditional love back, that you see the blessing, right?
Right.
And so I think that's a natural response.
Right. And I
to
just,
have.
And that's why I just don't want anybody who's in that early stage and they're like, to be like, I'm the only one, because you're not. It's interesting. We just had a conversation not too long ago with somebody in our small group who's, our kids get older.
Right.
And maybe they make the choices that we thought they would, and maybe they follow the path that we thought they would, and maybe they don't.
Right.
And it's not necessarily right or wrong, it's just not the path you saw for them. And it was interesting, somebody made the comment, because I said what you just said.
Yeah.
Nathan had a speech therapist that told us early on, she was like, you kind of have to mourn the path you thought you were taking before you can now go down the path. And we all have to do that with our children.
Yeah. No matter who they are.
We just do it. If you have a child with some type of special needs, maybe you do it when they're a baby.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, my path's not going to be what I thought.
Right.
But you do that with any child.
Yep.
Right.
It's just not when they're a baby. If you don't have any reason when they're a baby to change your vision, then you maybe do it when they're 18 or when they're 15 or when they're 21.
Or when they're 30.
Yeah. So I just was like, oh, that's true.
It is.
Because we all have this vision in our mind, and life doesn't follow the vision that's in our mind.
Well, and to back up just a little bit, Amy, one of the things I wanted to point out was we were referred to the Developmental Center of the Ozarks. Huge blessing. I feel like, in Nathan's ability today, he really, it paid so many dividends later, having him in therapy early.
early intervention.
Early intervention.
Huge.
His physical abilities and gross motor skills and things like that really benefited, from it. And his speech therapy, he speaks really well today.
He does.
And he's quite a conversationalist. But and then the Republic School District. Now again, this is 33 years ago. Republic was a much smaller district, much smaller town at that point, and the school district, for the most part, worked really well with this. And I think Nathan was one of the first. Wasn't he one of the first students in the special education program?
The early childhood special education program was just starting
Okay.
when Nathan
Wow.
was 3. So we were, they'd had 1 year previous to the year that Nathan started.
And now
it,
it's
so.
huge.
Right. And
Oh my
now
goodness.
the public school has taken on so much of that.
And then the reason I kind of bring some of this earlier stuff up is because it had such an impact later on for us. And, growing up in a Republic, a small community, the neat thing about it was, and I share with people, so for instance, by the time Nathan was in high school, by the time he was a senior, he had, I guess maybe even a junior. His junior year, he had a class ahead of him that most of the people in it knew him because that's the class he started with. We held him back in kindergarten. So we held him back 1 year. So then he has the class he's with his junior year. He has his younger brother, Ryan, the sophomore year. And then his younger sister, Kaylee, the freshman year. And so he basically had 4 years of classes there that loved and supported him and gave him encouragement and really looked out for him. We were really fortunate. Kind of get emotional thinking about that. But for all the negative things that you see or hear about, those were very positive things for us.
Wow.
And he actually was introduced to the Springfield Workshop through Republic High School, and Mrs. Skinner connected us with the workshop, and Nathan worked there, was very happy there for a period of time, and then ended up transitioning. And Nathan, Becky and I wanted Nathan to be able to do things he might have an opportunity to do. We wanted to encourage him in anything that he wanted to try to do, and try to push him outside the boundaries a little bit. And I feel like Becky was really good at that. I'm a super structured person, and I'm not a push out the boundaries type of person, but Becky thankfully was. And so, there was a lot of intentionality there about trying different things with Nathan. And, I've been very blessed with a community around us where we have a lot of connections. And
right.
so, just for example, recently, not only, with Upside Down Mercantile, but also, for example, Nathan helps out at Convoy of Hope now.
Right.
Well, that connection came through Scott and Carrie, Kirby. And so Nathan gets an opportunity to do that. Again, Chris and Whitney Justice, through the Brew 21.
Right.
Coffee company.
Coffee chromosome.
Coffee chromosomes. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, Nathan has, Nathan would love to live in his box. Okay, I mean, if it was up to him.
Wear a red shirt every day.
Exactly. And he
And his
doesn't-
pajama pants.
He doesn't really like being pushed outside the box, And like a lot of us, he doesn't really, change isn't necessarily appealing to him. But,
Until that change becomes part of the
yes.
part of the structure, and
Right.
then that
Then it's
change
okay.
is not a change; it's part of the plan.
Right, right.
Yeah. So we, I think, through different connections and through trials and errors, and just kind of thinking about knowing your son or daughter, what kind of environment to put them in,
Yeah.
and maybe what kind of environment to transition them out from, when that timing is right. I think all that kind of came into play as we were, kind of working through Nathan's journey of employment and activities,
Yeah.
and I don't know, what else would you add?
I love that you said you pushed him out of his comfort zone, because oftentimes that's hard as parents in general, because you don't want to make your kids uncomfortable. You don't want to do that, but you can't grow if you never try. And so I think you guys pushed him out of his comfort zone early, and you kept pushing him out of his comfort zone. So now those transitions aren't as hard. Sure, they're going to take some time because it's new and it's different, but we all take time to transition because it's new and it's different, right? And so I think that doing that from the get-go, hey, let's try this. It's new, it's different, let's do it. We can do it together. That's okay. And I think that's what makes them full and, live these lives that are just super successful, because it's okay to change and they're used to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and another blessing of Nathan being the first child is...
You didn't know what you were doing? No,
that was part of it.
I'm just kidding.
No, there's truth to that.
There was truth to that. He was really stretched because, Ryan and Kaylee were involved in so many activities.
Right.
So it wasn't like, Nathan was able to do exactly what he wanted to do. He was being taken to ball games and activities, and whether they were his own or his brothers and sisters. He had to get out of the box.
Right.
Yeah.
There wasn't necessarily a lot of routine for him, and I feel like that was beneficial to a degree. Besides, maybe us pushing him outside of that box.
Well, and it's interesting. I remember as you were talking, I remember he hated loud noises, and just unknown. If it was unknown and there was a chance it was going to be loud. So anything to go to a school assembly, he wanted no part of that. And
Me
so,
neither.
I was going to say, I never went to them, actually.
But, anything like that. And so I was as Ryan and Kaylee got older, I was they wanted to play ball and stuff. And I was what are we going to do with him? I can't, I don't want one of us to miss every single one of their games because we can't get Nathan to the game. So I spent all this time fretting and worrying, that what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It didn't even end up being an issue.
You just took him and did it.
Well, I think once his brother, because Ryan was the first one, once Ryan was playing, he would go. We couldn't get him to go to warm him up and prepare and get ready for it. But once Ryan was going and playing, we went. And it wasn't an issue. And he loved going to their games, and their biggest, he would be like, "Don't foul, that's my brother, you can't foul my brother, that's my sister." They hear him up in the stands, and I'm like,
I love that.
but so once again, maybe we can throw that out as maybe it'll work itself out, because
you don't know unless you try it.
It worked itself out. I was really bothered by how are we going to handle this, and
I think that's common with a lot of behaviors that you see in individuals with Down syndrome. I see a lot of parents asking in kind of communities with children with Down syndrome, what do you do with our child? They keep eloping, or they're struggling with elopement or flopping. What do we do? And so many of the comments are over time, they grow and they learn, and it just stops. People are when is this going to stop? You just never know. I think when that transition will happen.
And it's so much, kind of like you said earlier, we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
So some of his delays, we weren't really as stressed about him as we would have been if he'd been our second or third child, because we're well, it's not obviously the big ones walking, when that's supposed to happen kind of, but it takes so much more concentrated effort to make a behavior to stop or to get a behavior to happen.
Yeah.
So it is a lot more time and consistency, but it will happen.
Yeah.
Right.
You
got to put in the work.
Yeah, it will. Just when you're with the students in your class. I mean, it just takes so much more time. And so it is frustrating, I know, for parents. And, but don't give up. Right. Don't give up. That's kind of like why I said that earlier. I mean, just there's so many more positives and negatives. We've met so many great people that we would have never met.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then Nathan's forced us to meet people just because he'll I'm like,
because he knows who that is.
No, what who that is.
Or everyone knows him.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen, like Gerald said earlier, we have seen way more kindness than meanness.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In this realm of our life.
Yep.
So.
It's hard not to be kind around him because he's so wonderful. And he just smiles at everyone,
He doesn't judge anybody.
No.
He's not going to be like, I don't know if I should go talk to that person. If they come up and talk to him and they're nice, like when he was in school, he had friends who were athletes, skaters, the really, highly intelligent. It didn't matter. He didn't ever look at anybody like.
He doesn't have that filter.
Yeah, he
or
wasn't.
What are they
like,
thinking?
Yeah,
right.
Like I don't know. I don't really run with that crowd.
Right.
You're nice to me. I'm nice to you.
Right.
Yep. And that was, that's the way we should all be.
So you just kind of like immersed him with like Ryan and Kaylee's stuff, which I think is awesome. And then he developed his own interest in things, and you guys embraced that. Was it really important to start routines like in the very get-go with him and just kind of maintain that routine? Like specifically like with getting ready in the morning and with, like when you're changing to like go to work now, like there's a specific thing. Maybe you have to pack your lunch or maybe you do all these things. Was that important to start? Or was he able to be flexible and kind of just move through life quickly, however it needed to look?
No, I feel like routine was good. And I mean, we're pretty routine kind of people. So I don't know that there was the other option. Sometimes I think if we'd have been more loosey-goosey, maybe he'd be
more flexible.
I wonder, but it's interesting. I feel like he was more flexible as long as we had so many more of Ryan and Kaylee's things to go to.
Gotcha.
And because he couldn't totally be in a routine because they both played basketball in high school, so we had different places we had to go, blah blah blah.
Every night of the week, yeah.
And then they graduate, he graduates, they graduate, so he gets into more of a routine. And then COVID that got him into a real routine that he could have just
existed in the house for.
Except he could,
nothing.
He got to go to Grandma and Grandpa's. Yeah. He got to see his core people.
Right.
But I think, really liked that structure, and so we have to kind of fight that a little bit now.
Was that a really hard transition coming out of COVID? And then, because he's fully immersed in how many jobs?
A million.
And whenever I ask him his schedule, he's like, and Monday I do this, and Tuesday I do this. So was that a hard transition out of COVID and into those positions? Or?
He started at the Dream Center in March of 2020.
That's when
2021, because it was almost when, I was trying to think when, And so, if he loves what he's getting to do, he loves it, and it becomes part of the schedule, and he's ready to go.
And that's like what you said earlier. It just becomes part of the routine.
And he loves the people, right? Like, I think he loves the people more than the job, right? Like, I'm going to go socialize, and maybe I'll work while I'm there.
I think you're right. I think a lot of it's driven by people.
It is. And, are we all kind of driven that way? Like, I feel like I am. I wouldn't go to work every day if I didn't like the people I was around.
Yeah, who wants to go do the chores if you don't get to like the people?
Right. One thing I have noticed about Nathan, at work specifically, Nathan likes order to what he's doing. So if you just throw a bunch of tasks at him, that's really overwhelming to him. And he doesn't really know where to start. Even if there is no right answer or wrong answer. And so one thing that they've done is create like a task analysis kind of thing with like, do this, check it off, do this, check it off. But even within that, he wants to go down that list. And so sometimes him and I have done some one-on-one type things where I'm like, hey buddy, like this area is not able to happen right now because there's too many people in it. So like, let's go look at your list and see where we can bump and move. And I think that's pretty natural for any individual with.
Do you know anybody else like that?
Oh, you can't move down either. Okay. So you just get stuck.
You can.
It's genetic.
I gotcha.
He can.
You just stop for a minute and then
it's not your preference,
spin and then you go. Great. So
I kind of stole the list for Upside Down Mercantile. So whenever Nathan was in working with me, I gave him a little clipboard with a list, but I put mopping before sweeping.
Oh, girl.
And so he kind of, for a moment, like looked around. I was like, we're going to sweep first because the order of this list doesn't really matter. It's just about us marking them off. Gerald, you're like,
You got to support yourself with people that are positive and that can walk you through that path, right? And I think that's what is so awesome about DSGO is that we have a community, right? Like we have people like you guys to mentor the younger people and to see Nathan and just to provide support. I think that's awesome.
yeah. Parents ask me often, like, when is Nathan going to be in the store? Because they just want to come meet him. Like, what is
so
my
sweet.
child? What could my child be like? And it's so cool. So now I post, I'm like, Nathan's here today. If you notice I do that, it's because people want to come and
That's
meet
so
him
sweet.
to see
That's so sweet.
what to expect, honestly.
Well,
So-
and that's why we wanted to do the socks, really, is to show people there's something. You don't know what it is yet. Like we said, it's maybe not what you thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
But there is something, and I don't know. Nathan's made us better people, I think,
Yeah, I think so too.
and Ryan and Kaylee have made us better too, and made each,
Right.
But I think he's.
Well, he definitely expanded our world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just we've been involved in things that we've met people, we've had experiences that we wouldn't have met without Nathan
Yeah.
being in our life, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Becky said, made us better people. I think it's helped Ryan and Kaylee. Growing up with a sibling that has a disability, in this case Down syndrome, it expanded their world from the get-go. They didn't really know it, but it expanded it from the get-go.
And their friends.
And their
Yeah, I
friends.
was about to say that.
Right, because that was their norm, right? That was
Right.
their friend's norm, which is how cool. How many people get to have that kind of norm?
Right. And a great story. One of Ryan's buddies, I don't know, they were probably late elementary school. Ryan was, and you'll remember what happened here. So this young man, he was one of Ryan's friends, and they're spending the night. And Ryan had a couple of buddies over, and we used to let them ride around on we had a John Deere riding mower, and so
Disengaged blades.
typically, blades disengaged. Blades disengaged. But Nathan was out there with them, and Nathan rarely rode on the mower. Matter of fact, I don't know that he ever did. And one of Ryan's buddies said, "Hey, Nathan, you want to ride? You want to get on this?
You want to drive?
You want to drive it?" And so he puts Nathan on it. Nathan takes off across the yard, drives right through an electrical fence that we had for
It wasn't
dogs.
on. Fortunately, it wasn't on.
But my point in that is that, they're Ryan and Kaylee's friends saw Nathan as, hey, just
It didn't
split
occur
up.
to him that
You know what I mean?
not to let him do it.
There was no
Right.
Yeah.
no vision there of, hey, maybe Nathan couldn't do it. you know,
Right.
or maybe Nathan shouldn't do it.
Right.
He thought, you know what I mean? But he just thought, hey, Nathan, you know, we're having fun. I want Nathan to have fun as well.
Yeah.
Let's get on here, Nathan, and we'll point in a direction. And then they turn it around and they put him back on.
Now he's coming up the house.
Yeah,
This is the right way.
so, but just really cool experiences.
Right.
Like that,
Yeah.
You know, and so those are things that if you talk to those folks today as adults, as young adults, they absolutely remember that.
Right.
You know, and have great memories of spending
Yeah.
time with Nathan.
Right.
Well, we're really hopeful that these parent stories and just hearing your experience is just so encouraging for other families that are watching that have littles or have teenagers and they're like, what is going to happen to them after high school, or what are they going to do?
Right.
They're
Or
so-
have adults that are
Yeah.
his age that are
Yeah.
they haven't found their kiddo's passion yet.
Yeah.
And just hearing like it's okay to try different things and new
Yes.
things, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, right?
exactly.
But if you don't try, you don't know.
Right.
Well, and I think I had the fear, you know, kids go through phases.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan and Kaylee went through their phases faster than Nathan did, and I had this fear that Nathan, you know, because they told us, they're like, well, at some point his development will stop, which that's not true.
Right.
It's not true. He's still growing, he's still learning, just like the rest of us
Yeah.
are. But I had this fear that, oh my gosh, what if this is the phase?
That he stops.
Right.
Oh gosh.
And I lived with that fear until, I don't know, I mean,
For every phase until you're like, wait.
yeah, until
I like this one.
you
This is
know,
okay.
past junior high, you know, so we get into this phase where things were difficult in whatever area, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to push this. So I think we would encourage you to be like, yes, the phase is going to last longer, maybe, but you are going to get through it if you just keep
Yeah.
up that trying to get through it, you know, keep that behavior modification up, keep that. So yeah, I think look at 33-year-old Nathan and be like, oh, he's continuing to grow. He's
Yeah,
continuing to
exactly.
change. You taught him how to do the cash register.
Yeah.
You know,
And
he's
so
learned
good at
all
it.
kinds of things at the Dream Center. I mean, he's continuing to change, and, you know, there's behaviors that he still stays a little stuck in, and we have to work through, but there's things that
Yeah.
I kind of stay a little stuck in that
Exactly.
I have to work through. You know?
Natural adult behavior.
Right.
Well, guys, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you.
coming and sharing
thank
you.
his story
Thank
and
you.
your story. I, like Chloe said, I think it will provide some hope for some of our families.
Definitely.
And move forward. So thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you all.
And we will see you guys next month. If you would like to learn more about Upside Down Mercantile, you can go to shopupsidedown.com or visit us on Commercial Street in Springfield, Missouri. If you have a topic you'd like to know more about, you can email them to info@dsgo.life.